Welcome to Morphic Labs, and today we're going to be discussing why your favorite trading guru is a clown. But before we get into that, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button if you want to keep up with more content like this. I would really appreciate it. And if you're interested in increasing your market intelligence, which you should be interested in increasing your market intelligence if you're into trading or markets in any capacity, that sounds like you. I have a free market microstructure and trading systems course to walk you through the foundations of market structure, the mechanics of trading, market data, and analytics. And unlike the misinformation that's being spread in this space, this will actually teach you how markets work. From market structure and trading venues to matching engines and auction design to liquidity and market impact and much, much more. And if you found that one interesting, also have a free advanced market aggregation course if you're interested in looking at markets from different angles. That'll work you through advanced price-based aggregation, volatility-driven aggregation, information theoretic aggregation, order flow and microstructure aggregation, event-driven and hybrid methods, plus implementation and selection criteria so you can pick the most optimal aggregator for your specific use case. If you found it interesting, the links are in the description. Just sign up to be a free member. Get both of these resources all to yourself for free. Now let's get into it. Now today's video is going to be centered around edge and position sizing, right? And I'm not going to waste any time. These are our base functions essentially. And over here is our two simulations that assume a normal distribution, right? And essentially our base function for the expected value per trade is measured using this specific function, right? Or this specific expression, whatever. And essentially, let's say you have a strategy with a 50% probability of winning, right? And essentially your average winning trade return is 50%, right? And your average losing trade return is 80%. And assuming a normal distribution, of course, your volatility is 0.5. Now, let's look at what your EV per trade is, right? And look at the path too. As you can see, your EV per trade is negative, more specifically negative 0.15, which means that, for example, if you put up $1, on average, you should expect to lose 15 cents on average, right? Now, look here, your 45th trade, you put up $1 and you got $1.20 back, right? Over here, you put up $1 and you got 74 cents back, right? Over here on the downside, when your 47th trade, you put up $1 and you lost $1 plus 26 cents. But it really doesn't matter how much you turn the dollar into. Over time, you will lose all your money as the green line represents your expected value per trade, right? Let's run it again, a different path. As you can see, essentially, if with 100 trades taken, there are periods where essentially you win very early, right? Or like over here on your third trade, you put up $1 and you got 75 cents back. Phenomenal returns, right? On $1. Over here, you put up $1 and you got 74 cents back. Phenomenal. Look here. Over here, you got $1.09 back on $1 that you put up. Phenomenal, right? Okay, let's change up how much you lose. Let's say your average losing trade returns 50%, right? What's your EV? Is it positive? Is it negative? Your EV per trade is 0, right? So on average, if you put up $1, you should expect to get nothing, right? But there are periods where you do well per trade, right? Look here, your 73rd trade, you put up $1 and you got $1.23 back on $1. Phenomenal return, amazing return. That's a 123% return on $1, right? But it doesn't really matter how much you make on $1 just on a single trade. What matters is this green line over here, which is your expected value per trade, right? Let's run the numbers up again. Let's say your average winning trade returns about 80%, right? 50% probability, and your average losing trade stays the same, right? Let's look. As you can see, that's actually a positive EV strategy, right? Your EV per trade is 15, right? 0.15, I mean, meaning when you put up $1, you should on average expect to get 15 cents back, right? So this strategy is worth playing, right? Now, let's say you have a strategy with a 80% probability of winning, and you have a average winning trade return of 50% and an average losing trade return of 80%. Now, is this strategy a positive EV strategy, negative EV strategy? Let's find out. Right, as you can see, this is a positive EV strategy, right? Let's run another strategy. Let's say your strategy now has a average. Okay, let's keep the average losing trade return at that number, and let's say that your average winning trade return is about 30%, and essentially the strategy has a 99% probability of winning, assuming a volatility of 0.5, right? As you can see, this strategy has a positive EV, right? Even though on every trade you're losing, on average, you're losing about 80%, right? It has a 99 probability of winning, right? So it has a positive EV. So on average, when you put up $1, you should expect to make about 28-29 cents on a dollar, which is phenomenal, right? You look at the path, there are periods where, like over here, on your 7th trade, you pull up $1 and you got $1 back and 38 cents. It's a 138% return on a dollar. Over here, you put up on your 60th trade, you put up $1 and you got a 132% gain on a dollar. That's $1 plus 32 cents. Phenomenal, right? Let's play another path, right? As you can see, there are periods like over here on your 37th trade, you put up $1 and you got $1.62 back, right? And this assuming a volatility of 0.5. In reality, markets are more volatile than that, right? Now, let's say you're running a strategy with a 50% probability of winning. Actually, let's say you're running a strategy with a 20% probability of winning, right? And essentially, your average winning trade returns about 80, right? And your average losing trade loses about, let's say you're really good with risk management, right? Average losing trade returns about 10%, right? Assuming a volatility of 0.5, right? And you play the game 100 times. What's your EV? Is it positive? Is it negative? Let's see. As you can see, this is a positive EV strategy, right? Because even though the strategy has a 20% probability of happening, on average, the average losing trade return loses about 10%, right? And the average winning trade brings back about 80%, right? As you can see, there are periods where, like over here on your 75th trade, you put up $1 and you got $1 plus 44 cents back. That's a 144% return on a dollar, right? Over here, you put up $1 on your 92nd trade and you got $1 plus 53 cents back. That's a 153% gain on a dollar, right? Looking at the downside, look at your 4th trade. You put up $1 and you lost 100% plus, right, on that dollar, right? So you lost $1 and you lost about 12-13 cents on top of that, right? Now, let's say you run this for a long time. Let's say you run this simulation for 500 trades, right? 500 tries, right? Actually, let's do like 600, no, 700 tries. Let's say you run it for 700 tries, right? Just to show you that the longer you play, outliers, assuming you have, enough money, but the longer you play, outliers will come up, right? Assuming the same strategy variables, let's see. Right, as you can see, the EV is still the same. Now, look here. There are periods where on a single trade, you lost about 140%, right? In a single trade. Over here, as you can see, on your 688th trade, you put up $1 and you lost about $1.85, right? This is assuming a volatility of 0.5. In reality, markets are more volatile there. Let's say you have a volatility of 0.9, right? As you can see, with higher volatility, you can see that there are periods where, like over here on your 562nd trade, you put up $1 and you got $2 plus 78 cents back. That's a 278% return on $1. Phenomenal return, amazing returns, right? And keep in mind, this is a positive EV strategy, right? But the most important part are these losses, right? Because here's the thing. If you keep playing this, not this game specifically, but let's say you're playing a negative EV game, right? If you play a negative EV game long enough, you will lose all your money. Let me show you what I mean, especially with high volatility, because you don't need multiple trades to lose. You just need 1-2 trades that will essentially take more than you put up, right? You put up $1, whatever, and let's say you have $100 in your account. All you need is one trade, right, where you put up $1 and then you lose about $90 on the specific dollar that you put up, and next thing you know, you're down to only 10% of your account left, right? Now, let's say your strategy has an average losing trade return of 80% and an average winning trade return of 10%. Probability of winning is 2%, and the volatility is 0.9, assuming a high volatility, because in real life, things are volatile. Let's take a look. That's a negative EV strategy. So on average, when you put up $1, you should expect to lose 62 cents on average, right, for every dollar that you put up. Now, look over here. Your 242nd trade, you put up $1 and you got $2.82 back, right? There's a 282% gain on $1. But looking at the downside, right, because it's so volatile, there are periods where you put up $1, like over here, your 494th trade, you put up $1 and you lost 373% on that specific dollar. That's more than the dollar that you put up, right? Let's run a high volatility game again, right? As you can see, look over here. Your 498th trade, you put up $1 and you got $1.85 back. Phenomenal return, right? Or a 185% return to be more specific. Look over here. Your loss on your 419th trade, you put up $1 and you lost over 300%, 353% on a single dollar. That's more than you put up, right? Let's play another high volatility game, right? As you can see, look over here. Your 295th trade, you put up $1 and you lost 348% on that specific dollar, right? But there are periods where essentially you put up $1, like over here, your 387th trade, you put up $1 and you got 203% back on that dollar, which is about $2 extra, and maybe 3 cents, right? And the point here is, gurus will cherry pick strategies, right? They might pick these positive return per trade strategies, right? They just pick strategies where they win, but they never actually show you their losses, or if they do show you their losses, they don't calculate their EV per trade, right? So they use these cherry pick trades to essentially lie to you, scam you, and mislead you, right, about what their actual trading performance is. Because if you can tell me what your EV per trade is, you're just gambling. You're not a trader. You're a gambler, glorified gambler, for that fact, right? Let's run this high volatility game one last time. This time with a volatility of 1.5, right? And as you can see, essentially, there are periods like over here, your 173rd trade, you put up $1, but you lost 463% on that dollar, right? That means you lost $4.63 on a dollar that you put up. That's more than the dollar that you put up, right? Look over here. Look over here. You put up $1, and on your 571st trade, you put up $1 and you lost over 526% on a dollar. You put up $1 and you lost $5.26, right? Look over here. On your 668th trade, you put up $1 and you got over 414% back on $1, right? That means you put up $1 and you got $4 extra and an extra 14 cents. Phenomenal returns, amazing returns, right? But look at the green line. The green line is your expected value per trade. So regardless of how long you play this game, 600, 800, 1,000 times, you will, on average, lose money, right? So watch out for gurus who cherry pick trades. They show you that, oh, I made $10,000 over here, or I made $8,000 over here. It doesn't matter how much you made, right? It doesn't matter how much you made on individual trades. What matters is your EV per trade, right? And I'm going to be moving on to bet size, right? And essentially, the bet size formula explicitly used in the code above in the simulations is this the optimal Kelly fraction formula, right? And let's assume that you have a strategy with a 50% probability of winning, and you're willing to lose about 50% on that specific bet that you put up. So you put up $1, you're willing to lose 50 cents, right? To make 10 cents, right? 0.1. And let's say the volatility is fair, 0.5 volatility, right? Which assumes a normal distribution. Now, what's going to be the bet size per trade pair? Let's look at it. Now, the optimal Kelly fraction per trade is -4, which means that this game should not be played. Okay, the simulation didn't even try to make any bets. It just said no, I'm not gonna do this because that's the most smartest thing to do. Why would you risk? Say you put up $1 on a bet. Why would you risk 50 cents to make 10 cents with a probability of 50% that you win? It's stupid, right? So the most optimal thing to do is do nothing, right? But let's say you're stupid, right? Let's say it's volatile. Let's say you're stupid. Even if you're very stupid and it's very volatile, it's still not gonna take any trades, right? At least the simulation won't take any trades. In real life, people will make bets, right? They're willing to risk whatever they have on that specific bet to make an extra 10%. Maybe they don't know what the probability is. Maybe they don't know that this game is not in their favor, right? But let's take the volatility back to that value, and let's change up some of these variables. Let's say that now the probability is 70% probability that you win. You're willing to risk, say you put up $1, you're willing to risk 50% to make 10 cents with a 70% probability of winning. Now, is this a game that you should be playing? Let's find out. Essentially, this game should not be played at all. As you can see, the simulation only took one bet, right, at the 47th trial, and it risked only about 0.028% on that specific dollar, right? For example, right? And the optimal Kelly fraction per trade is -1.6, which just means that you shouldn't play this game at all, right? Let's see what happens when you increase volatility, right? Let's see. When you increase the volatility, only about 4 trades were taken out of 100 trials, right? Let's bring the volatility back to 0.5. And now let's say that you have a strategy with a 50% probability of winning, and you're willing to lose, say, 30 cents on a dollar, right? To make back, let's say, 80 cents on that specific dollar with a 50% probability, assuming a volatility of 0.5, right? Is this a strategy with a positive EV, negative EV? Because the Kelly criterion, what it's trying to do is it's trying to essentially optimize the expected value of the log of your wealth, right? So if the Kelly fraction per trade is negative, that means the strategy itself has a negative EV. If the Kelly fraction per trade is positive, that means the strategy has a positive EV. If it's zero, that means the strategy has zero EV, right? Let's look at this. Let's see what the path is going to be. And as you can see, This strategy essentially has a positive EV. Matter of fact, this strategy is so well that is doing so well that actually you should be betting the house on this strategy, right? The Kelly fraction is greater than 1. That means you should be betting the house on this. And this is why you see the orange line is up there at 1, right? And as you look at this geometry, it clearly shows that most of the time with every bet, it was betting. Look over here. Look over here. It was betting on the 24th trade. It bet 46% of its wealth on this, right? Look over here. The fourth trade, 94% of your wealth on this, right? On this single bet, right? Let's see what happens when we increase the volatility, right? As you can see, it's all over the place. But there are periods where essentially you go all out, like over here in your third trade, you bet 100% on that single bet, right? 100% of your wealth on that specific trade that you took, of course, right? Or bet. Let me take the volatility back. Now, let's say you have a strategy with an 80% probability, no, of with 30% probability of winning, and you're willing to essentially risk, say, 1% on your specific wealth, right? On your specific trade bet, whatever, and you're willing to make back 80%. Is that a strategy with a positive EV, negative EV? Let's find out. Say the strategy with a positive EV, the optimal Kelly fraction per trade is greater than 1. This means you should bet the whole house, and this is why you see that every single one of these are just 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, because the strategy is so good that you're better off betting the whole house on the strategy. But obviously, in real life, you don't want to use the full Kelly fraction per trade. You want to at least slice it up so you don't get destroyed by theoretical torture, right? And let's just run one last strategy. Let's say you're willing to put up 10% to make about 50% back, right? With a 10% probability of winning. This is a strategy with a positive EV, negative EV. Let's find out. As you can see, this is a negative EV strategy. The Kelly fraction per trade is negative 0.8, meaning that you shouldn't be playing this game at all. But the simulation played it about only 4 or 5 times out of 100, right? And as you can see over here, the 65th bet essentially risked about 10% of its wealth. Over here, the 88th bet risked about 22% of its wealth. Let's see what happens when you increase the volatility. Will the simulation take more bets or not? And yes, it took more bets, but not a lot. Really, out of the 100, it's really not a lot, right? And that's about it for today. And what were the lessons? The lessons were never trust anyone who shows you a cherry picked set of trades. It doesn't matter if it's 6 trades, 10 trades. Do not trust them. Number 2, never trust anyone who can't tell you what their EV per trade is. And number 3, never trust anyone who can't size their positions optimally, right? And that's about it for today. If you're interested in increasing your market intelligence, which if you're into trading or markets in any capacity, you should be interested in increasing your market intelligence. If that sounds like you, I have a free market microstructure and trading systems course that will walk you through the foundations of market structure, the mechanics of trading, market data, and analytics. Plus, if you're interested in looking at markets from different angles, I have a free advanced market aggregation course that will walk you through advanced price-based aggregation, volatility-driven aggregation, information theoretic aggregation, workflow microstructure aggregation, event-driven and hybrid methods, plus implementation and selection criteria. If you found that interesting, the links are in the description. Just sign up to be a free member and have both of these resources all to yourself for free. And that's about it for today. If you enjoyed this, hit the subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. And I'm out. Bye.